This is just an effort to see if there's anything I can do to help you understand what's going on. I can't write right now because my arms are too injured from prior writing carpal tunnel syndrome. The weather's just horrible. I'm in Tacoma, Washington, originally from Pittsburgh. The politics is scaring everybody. I wish you the best of luck in the COVID atrocity. There's a word that gets used these days a little differently from its original meaning. I looked it up in the Oxford English Dictionary, where, if you don't know this, the OED, as it's sometimes called, provides the origins of a word. It cites the first use in history books, the first time it was ever used, what it meant. Sort of clocks how it's evolved over the centuries. Today, aporia, A-P-O-R-I-A, means, confusion. But there was a time when it was used to describe a sort of at-sea feeling that a person who had weathered the storms of life and knew things felt, and trying to decide a point of departure for what they had to explain, because there's so much that goes on. You have to pick a place to begin from. Some intellectuals have come to talk about the engagement of reality as an ongoing critique. Mostly, I want to address very specific subjects, but they take place in things that go on around us. I've come to view simplifications as a mistake. Bumper sticker heads full of slogans that can't check what they're being told against even their own experiences are a consequence of intellectual bullies. I was up against, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Bar Association from the time I was attacked, kidnapped, and tortured as a child. I saw on TV last night, it was an election results broadcast. In passing, mention of some of the lawsuits that the loser is filing. One commentator said, I believe it was Wolf Blitzer, law is a place where you put something on paper and then attempt to prove it. It's not that simple. If it were that simple, we would have arrested the people who started AIDS. It's more like the hostage rescue attempt that Jimmy Carter initiated. I read somewhere that Oliver North was involved, pulled out, and the thing crashed. A black man who was a caseworker of mine, supposedly very well intended towards me, gave a piece of paper I needed for court, the slip, so that when I got to court I didn't have a necessary piece of paper. I had to run down 6 flights of stairs and back up. It's a good thing I noticed. You can attempt to rescue people from the criminally insane, but the Bar Association has its tactics. There was a theater near my high school called the Squirrel Hill Theater. Squirrel Hill is a Jewish community. There's a clubhouse around the corner, the Howard Levin Clubhouse in Squirrel Hill, where I was raised. Last time I was there, a biker pulled by with an open carry weapon. When I asked the police about it, they just made clear that as far as they were concerned, the nature of reality had won in Pittsburgh. The Squirrel Hill Theater was owned by Richard Stone, I think. I knew a Danny Stone back in the days after I was tortured and received letters from Gail Burson. Ironically and coincidentally, as Olympia Snow would say, as the crow flies, I would add, I saw a very poignant and relevant film that I enjoyed. Isaac Stern Goes to China at the Squirrel Hill Theater on Forward, around the corner from Howard Levin and Taylor Alderdice High School. And the cleaner where JB's friend Stuart Shepard used to take his suits. JB being the man who gave the papers the slip, Stuart Shepard being the man who got off for saying jigaboo all the time, because he was friendly to the NAACP's action towards me. Isaac Stern Goes to China was very relevant because there's a particular scene that comes to mind. When the martial artists and calisthenics of China were going on, the ballet dancers, and they were really extremely excellent, and Isaac Stern was just bowled over by it. Then he said very shyly, well, they can't play piano like I do. I mean, he has a pot belly and stuff. I mean, play violin like I do. And of course they can't. And in a normal society, a place like Pittsburgh would have welcomed a naval lieutenant from the Peace Corps who believed in public education, but the Bar Association, Milton Schaap's administration, was being run by the Henry Kissinger type Ralph Taub. And Ralph Taub had a sarcastic temper when it came to public schools. What's public schools going to give you? 60 years later, 50 years later, I'm turning 60, they are casing me through the clubhouse system apparently as vultures after my inheritance when my mother died. When my father died, they gave his cashmere coat to a dog to tear up, which he had left me. It was one of the few things that he wanted me to have because of the whisper campaigns that were going on about me. Pennsylvania Bar Association wanted that outcome for somebody from the public schools. We'll show you what good these public schools are, that sort of mentality. And this mentality of tearing up cashmere coats with the dog continues. I mean, these people who are making so much sport of me recently killed Circe Kennedy. And you can't make it into human drama. I got a letter from Bobby Kennedy's daughter about it, a very touching letter. And they immediately sent a special action team following the postal route of my letter to describe what I'd seen and murder 2 more Kennedys. You know, they tore up the cashmere coat, killed the Kennedys. We don't want none of this public schools. Is the Pennsylvania Bar Association's mindset. And I say without hesitation that Prabanic was not just there when JFK Jr. went down. So, people don't care, apparently. My videos are very unpopular. I see them, people don't watch them. One of them was taken down as containing a threat against the Beatles. I don't know why. I was just telling the truth about them. So, another thing that you need to know that's really very revealing about the so-called objective legal system is that it's a crime to report a murder. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I was arrested and my best friend was attacked and raped because I attempted to report evidence of a murder. And I have very little doubt that pressure will be put on the Kennedy family to disabuse me of any idea that they supported my attempts to get help for them. So, in order to understand what's happened, we have to trespass a little bit into analysis of the cooking pot rigmarole that is being used by the persons who attempted to deny me self-representation of any sort. They speak of constructing a persona in their letters about me. And they deafened me so I wouldn't hear what was going on. They're whispers. A whisper campaign about a deaf man. Isn't that cute? So, they slandered me, and it worked. And I'd like to describe a few of the issues that pertain to this over the course of this documentation of my testimony. One of the people who was involved in all of this, Martin Andelman of Wells Fargo Bank, used to send his pitch, "God is the devil. Fear him, he will lead you to an early grave." There's a mentality at work in that remark. God is the devil. And they've set me up on Mount Desert Island by appeal to my conscience. This way, queerbait, and you will get the information. Meanwhile, they set up slanders. This way, queerbait, and you will get the information. Bring on the conscience. But they were leading me to a guillotine attack. This way, queerbait. The queerbait is going undercover. It's going to be alive. He's going to investigate us. Ha 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 ha. Was their mindset. So God is the devil, meaning God is behind the holy war. God started AIDS. And they assigned me a position for creating a lesson plan. And it's a crime to report these murders. So we see some of the curiosities of critique at work in the way that it plays out through the Reagan era and into the UW, dialectical UWism that's at work with Andelman's cronies like Andrew Cho in sociology at Tacoma Community College, where they certainly pulled a fast one. Cho, I took classes with him. He took every sick day he could. He'd call in sick. And it gives you some idea of what calling means in this issue. The book that came out in 1962 was by Colin Cross about Oswald Mosley, and it names General Edwin Walker on the back as one of the most dangerous fascists in America. He was the star witness for the Warren Report. Oswald Mosley, Oswald. Oh, isn't that cute? Those British are really some, aren't they cute? And they have here They have them kneeling at football games now under the auspices of calling. So who are you going to call on, Coleman? Going to call on the Queen? It's a crime to report how they're indexing. And there's reasons to be skeptical. In 1933, there was a film called Gabriel over the White House. It was a attempt to depict FDR sort of underhandedly as a potential dictator. It's a strange movie. And we have a cartoon industrial complex that satirizes people like me, terrible crimes like what was done to me. It turns them into cartoons. It's not safe to just make assumptions, to just draw unglamorous people as, cartoons, to just render somebody a bad guy because you think that they crossed you. It's always important to fact check and double check and review. So the peer advice that I'm giving you isn't going to necessarily help you dismantle an Ivy League and Bar Association system of union gangs who are calling in sick while double-crossing the United States. I mean, I hardly see how you can call the murder of the Kennedys an act of patriotism. It's sick. But they're calling in sick, and that they are. So, when we look at the situation with the National Alliance of the Mentally Ill, what you see is the totally disturbing, cruel, zany, evil hypocrisy of Peter Gabriel. When this animal, this rabid fake, contacted me, he said, "How nice to hear from you, James. I was so relieved that it wasn't one of those weirder-than-thou types." And what does he do? He trots out all the fakers on the bed of nails that Paul McCartney has at his disposal due to hammer the nail into his face. A tranny who wants to put semen in your glass. He trotted out every single murderer in the left or the right of Seattle and had them put on each other's costumes. And he said, get that clown, about me. So these Euro perverts are important to understand because their godfather Foucault was actually one of the gangsters working for the extremely psychotic, rich maniacs in France who got us into the Vietnam War in defense of the Vichy, who were allies of Japan there during World War II, and who went off to meet with the Ayatollah to plot for the fundamentalist tripartite system they put together with the AIDS attack. And then, as a Bohemian Grove cleanse, in Her Majesty's concept of war, he took AIDS himself, just as Sean Straub, who was outside the Dakota with Mark Chapman, did. And, of course, the royal family was obligated to endure COVID as part of this Bohemian Grove cleanse psychology. Penis Gabriel had people on Mount Desert Island saying things to me like, "I pour it on you steaming and hope it's enough." Dawn Denise left a note that said that when they gave me scabies, I had welts all over my body. So the brutality of these gestures, like chemically castrating me, underscores the hold of the idea that they have a silent majority who believes that AIDS was correct. And among them, of course, is this Barack Obama troll who uses his condition as the black man as an alibi for what he pulled. So we see that it's a crime to report these things because it's a politically incorrect act to report these things. A black, popular athlete went down in an airplane with all of his white girlfriends, and the Green Party jumped to construe it as a, as a assassination of the black male image. Because they want to keep everything stereotyped according to race. Black, white, while they themselves are hitting both sides to build an arc. And of course you have this majestic idea of the Ark family, the royal family, being inclusive and stuff. And the public school system, just get it out of here. Who do you think you are with this public school stuff? Isaac Stern in China demonstrates the way that I should have been treated. My father was chair of philosophy of education at the University of Pittsburgh. Instead, they made my sister into a Shiska. They made me into a golem. They impacted a karma trauma. And they won't allow it into court. They have desert hostage rescue sabotages if you try to get into the courts. So Olympia, Washington particularly, is just a house of horrors. Really a house of horrors. I have some books that characterize what went on here. When they made the nuclear threat on the Magic Mountain, they made sure that the monks of war fell to me, and they have, of course, the Christian dying boys surrounding, why should you get away with your mother's inheritance when we want it, we need it for the poor. They have, color indexes in their publication houses. Notice these all are light purple. The coupon book, The Summer of Hummingbirds in Asian American Psychology, because the purple people have seen the light. This is about sustainability, and that's their sociology of sustainability. I love Greta Thunberg. I wish her the best, but she was a bellwether for these things, and I think that she should be interrogated on her attitude about the COVID atrocity. So, making a little progress in showing what some of these language systems that they have built into the ordeal that they've authored for the West signify. I was attacked by men named pit men, when they put me in the pit. And they took me to King's Estate, which was a house with castles and stuff. And this was the heavenly estate of the Lord where they gassed me. They were Holocaust survivors, so this signifies God's heavenly estate. Claude Lanzmann talked in his movie Shoah about the Jews being told that the ramp into the gas chambers was the Himmelschwager road to heaven, King's heavenly estate. It's all in the letters that they licky chops over. And they won't allow anybody to report. It's a crime to tell anybody about them. So in Shulman, Pedinus Gabriel's partner in the matter, was recently arrested. Smithsonian's covering for penis, but it's still rather hopeless melodrama from the city of Pennsylvania law. So you have these Euro perverts presiding over the situation in Seattle, while licky chopsing over inheritance from the elderly mother in the matter. Sisters whispering over the phone about what they can do in terms of augmenting the whisper campaign about the queer bait, And you have to be gassed. You have to, prove yourself. And Trump spreads COVID right and left. Prove yourself worthy of the greatness. So, Pittman, of course, is the name that they chose. to gas me. It's like quarrymen. You know, Alderman used to prance around. His favorite joke was, "I can't believe Paul McCartney was in a band before he joined Wings." Of course, the fact is he knew about the Quarrymen. So, the King family made a mockery of themselves. They torture and gas somebody, and Harold T. Lewis and Ralph Proctor and Nelson Harrison normalize it. They say, "Oh, he was a white, of the white." It's nearly unbelievable. Trump with Lyndon Johnson in the White House after they assassinate JFK. So nothing is wrong. So nothing is real. Dexter King just wants the money. Intellectual properties management. The queer bait must be subjected to successive degradations of the X method, Carl called it, and constructing a persona for Martin Edelman, because God is the devil. I mean, the Kank family made themselves out to be into the very royal satires that the murderers made them out to be by presiding at King's estate over the gas chambers. And they didn't rebel. They didn't say, "Wait, that's Jimmy. We know him. Get up here. Tell us what's going on." They didn't do that. They said, "We have sex tapes. We're going to make some more." It was rancid and evil, and it traced to Yoko Ono and Warhol, friend of Trump and the Neva Corporation. So the root of it was about Midori Goto. Edelman took me to a place called East West Circuit Road, and sat there for a long time when he first introduced me to one of Harvard's buddies from the Obama domain. This was outside Cyril Weck's house. He's a famous Mysterian from the Holocaust survivor gravedigger community. And this East-West Circuit Road Sacrament was conceiving, that we've COVID atrocityed all the immigrants away, and now we're forced to behavioral modify to keep our distance from one another. So this is all central planning, to hell with public schools, forward march. And East-West Circle was the same scene. They were, conniving when the East-West would meet through matrimony. This was John Lennon's Two Virgins Pussy Bowl designator in the golf course. And this, of course, was Mitch McConnell's fetish with his Asian wife and so forth. And Lyndon Johnson was openly bragging in Life magazine innuendos that the war in Vietnam was to get the women and stuff. Imagine this Asian princess wriggling and squealing in your arms was one of the pseudo captions they innuendoed in Oswald Diary of Life magazine in '64. So the brutality of these gestures is filled with grisly logic from these men on high. And Mitch McConnell, with this quisling Himmler look, had a namesake up on Mount Desert Island when they pulled all this, named Mitch Hawkman. So goes back to the days when I used to talk about Mitch Hawk from the Hell Odyssey with Ryback, who had a poem about me. To play you has me, and he spelled it tiered. He meant tired, but to play you has me tiered. So mount your torrid fantasy, puppet of the fire, which would be pronounced feared. Puppet of the fear, the nature of reality. Get it? Oh. So it worked, though. I mean, that's the central nervous system of the attack from the royal family on the American system, with this wild cyclops boulder-throwing ogre named Donald Trump, who just wants to tear it down, start over, call in sick, and kneel. So they had radio control from Ringo Starr through WQED, selling false sponsorship, vague ideas about the CIA from Zappa and stuff, while making a land stake on the very specific particulars of the book that they wrote. So Haldeman got me a job at a place called Adolf Saffron Office Supplies. Now, in 2007, the Saffron Revolution took place, and Saffron employee Saffron attaché Cho, who I believe engineered the murder of Donnie Chin and Circe Kennedy with the help of Andaman, chemically castrated me. And one of the leaders of the revolution, Saffron Revolution, was Hugh Gambara. It was Hugh Gambara. So you have this situation with the quisling Mitch McConnell, east-west circuiting up on that desert island for the play. And he was friends with Aung San Suu Kyi, who was also an ally of the Japanese through her father, General Aung San, during the occupation of the East Co-Prosperity Zone of the Vichy French and Tojo, who were wronged. Don't you know they were wronged? You don't know that Japan was wronged in World War II. I suggest you ask Yoko Ono and King Edward. And King Edward's Windsor crowd and the saluting Oswald Mosley, Colin Neil at the throne of Queen Elizabeth, the royal family, which these liberal cunt-lappers don't belong. Well, you know they don't belong. You're the good kind of black man, Colin. So we know what the situation is with terms of the sacraments that they're pulling. So, to play you has me tiered, puppet of the feared. And they have robo-Christians who come marching in. So, they say put it on paper and try to prove it. It's the nature of the game. But I say what the nature of the game is that they have sabotage in store for any rescue attempt. And they have people like Saul Brecker applying carrot tapes, tracing way back through Jaime Carbonell and Granger Morgan to J.P. Morgan and Ringo Starkey, and depredating on the queer bait to show what these liberal morons really are. We'll show you from the wild side what these liberal morons really are. So, I was assigned a position in this. And if you look at what Franklin Graham said about Guyana freeing up the land for Jesus, you see what sort of renegade twitches are behind all this. The dude showed up named Cold Iron, Cold Iron City, Beth Oven. That's where the street Beth Oven is. It's Beth Oven, not Beethoven, you queer bait.